Let me offer you a very warm welcome here to the University of Strathclyde's Barony Hall, one of the jewels in the crown of the university's estate, where much goes on in here. We get conferencing, special events, the special dining for international guests, but the most important thing that we do is use it for our graduations, where we have a wonderful array of currently graduands in front of us, and behind me on the stage, we're here to celebrate their fantastic achievements and all they've done to make their families proud. So it's lovely to see mums, dads, grands, aunts, uncles, and supporters. You're particularly welcome, so we know how much joy this brings to the family. Very shortly, we'll be introducing our students from the Mechanical and Aerospace Department, and you'll process across the stage. I'm going to cap you as gently as possible, and then you'll carry on to get your scroll. This thing before me, of course, please don't be tempted to kneel on it. This is the university kneeler, appropriately enough. I've knelt on this formally 3 times for my bachelor's, master's, and PhD degrees, but we thought it wasn't quite as egalitarian as we would like, kneeling before the Vice-Chancellor or the Chancellor. So I'd much rather be looking you straight in the eye when I cap you, or as far as I can, given my height. So come across, we'll cap you, and then at the end of that process of graduating you, I'll then spend some time letting you know what's going on at Strathclyde and what we're doing to make you proud of what the university is all about. So with that, colleagues, I will declare this congregation formally open, and I will invite our speaker to introduce the students. Thank you very much, and enjoy the ceremony. What I should say, of course, is that you may well applaud politely, but I would suggest if you want to let your family members know that you're here as well, that's entirely appropriate. You're here to enjoy yourself, so enjoy the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Principal and Vice-Chancellor, in the name of the university and by the authority of Senate, I present to you these students. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, for research in the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, Andrew Ian Barnes. Alessio Boaro. Wichain Chalid. Georgie Crudson. Olga Ganilova. Andrew John Hacken Garrick. Gemma Catherine Houston. Kieran John Pugh. Philip Summerman. Miguel Ubago Torres. Xiaoxiao Wang. Ronnie George Woodward. Georgios Zipolias. For the degree of Master of Science in Advanced Mechanical Engineering, Pratam Chuan. Keegan Church Forbes. Anirudh Mahesh Deshmukh. Saduni Natasha Fernando Natitanji. Yulei Lai. Jaykumar Yogneshvi Patel. Sahil Kiran Yoaka. In advanced mechanical engineering with aerospace, Callum McGowan. Mirakama Kumatavi Patel. In advanced mechanical engineering with energy systems, Nandini Jayaram Mayavanturi. In advanced mechanical engineering with industrial placement, Solomon Sola Segum. In advanced mechanical engineering with materials, Shreyas Jayaram. In advanced mechanical engineering with power plant technologies, Javad Kayan. In satellite data for sustainable development, Alexander James McLaughlin. For the degree of Master Engineering in Aeromechanical Engineering, Ailey Louise Adamson. Catherine Roisin Bozy Adu. Malik Almariri Eli. Kyle McCall Anderson. Rory Anderson. Rasheen Arnold. Oliver William Bailey. Alistair Robert Baines. Michael Lewis Brawley. Mari Susan Cairns. Martin Cassells. Louise Iona Clunas. Mohammed Elmadi. Katie Francis. Rory Galbraith. Katie Ellen Gray. Sian Katia Gregson. Jack William Graham Haggerty. Ian Hall. Emma Mary Hodgson. Roderick Urban Howell. Robert Jenkins. Duncan Ian Johnston. Emily Ann Logue. Gregor Thomas McDowell. Amelia Mapson. Marcus McAllister. Dean MacDonald. Andrew McFarlane. Kieran Stewart McGee. Sean McLarty. Andrew James McLaughlin. Laurel Elaine McLuckie. Elise Catherine Millard. Amy Elizabeth Mitchell. Jack Mitchell Divers. Emma Morrison. Yasmin Naderi. Paul Lewis Taylor Nixon. Pavel Powell. Christopher Robert Purdy. Simran Kaur Sangera. Matthew Graham Scott. Jack Scott Seath. Esther Louise Smith. Jamie Alexander Stewart. Oliver Summerwell. Sarah Thompson. Christian Thornton. Adam George Watson. Tommy Williamson. In mechanical engineering, Samil Ahmad. Lucas Bailey Anderson. Clara Begg. Fraser Nan Belmore. Benjamin John Borchard. Michael Austin James Boyle. Michael John Henry Bridges. Callum James Caves. Mohammed Chowdhury. Katie Eloy Connor. Gillian Emmeline Coots. Ethan James Crichton. William Kenneth Philip Daly. Robbie Alexander Dempster. Cameron Ewan Douglas. Blair Anderson Duncan. Callum Lachlan Eckert. Matthew Mark Evans. Hannah Hewitt. Rebecca Flett. Jamie Fury. Kazi Hamitouche. Sylvie Hetema. Oliver Holdsworth. Jamie Hunter. Jem Allen Irving. Gauthan Jaykumar. Ewan Jocelyn. Charlie Jacob Jordan. Mohammed Kazi. Sol Rankin Yolson. Andrew James Lickley. Michael James McCall. David McDonald. Andrew McIntosh. Sheshmira Mehihal. Sean Allen Malcolm. Lewis MacDonald. Matthew James McDowell. Aidan McGarvey. Emma Maguire. Joseph Lewis Cameron McMeehan. Lewis McPhail. Andriana Melisugu Sika. Christopher Miller. Matthew Robert Milligan. Kian Douglas Morton. James Powell. John Proctor. James Roxburn. James Kerban Sim. Jonathan Joseph Sterling. Ian Taylor. Alejandro Bartolome Hayadel Thompson Castro. Patrick Tibbs. In mechanical engineering with aeronautics, Ardesh Bardwaj. Ryan Calhoun. Ryan John Cran. Ryan Curtis. Angus Lawson. Beth June Malone. Adam Mitchell. Robert Parker. Craig James Ross. Cameron Mark Scott. Isla Laura Faye Tom. In mechanical engineering with financial management, Ben Christian Fetes. In mechanical engineering with international study, Anya Suniv Rula-Quebec. Georgia Jo Watson. For the degree of Bachelor of Engineering in Aeromechanical Engineering, Christian Javier Ibar Hernandez. Anna Sturrock. Joel Vincente Cabrera Cordova. Natalie Frost. Rob McConnell. Paul Stephen Kalel Armis. Rafael Alejandro Almoto Muzo. Ishak Omar. In mechanical engineering, Laura Louise Grant. Philip Ajan Monman. Matthew Ronald Flynn. Gavin George Kerr. Arman Khan. Alistair David Laurie. Olivia Margaret Owens Meek. Kevin Raysikvi Shurea. Hagen Tour. Aidan McIrvine. Alexander Milliken. Neve Walsh. Rajveer Singh Purwal. Sharif Osama Abdelmon Mahmoud Sharif. In Mechanical Engineering with International Study, Eve James. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy for Research in the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, Sheen McLean Cabreros. For the degree of Master of Science in Mechatronics and Automation, Ishant Bol. Omakar Rosheb Chavan. For the degree of Master of Science in Advanced Mechanical Engineering, Ahmed Shorki.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's give the class of 2023 a big rousing round of applause. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and to you all now, our Strathclyde graduates, let me reiterate our very warm welcome to this wonderful ceremony, a day that none of you will forget, because it marks the successful conclusion of years of hard work, and you've graduated now in front of your families, your friends, supporters, and of course, your classmates. And today we welcome visitors from all over Scotland, from across the UK, and of course from across a wonderful international community too. We're truly delighted to see you all here to join in the celebrations. Importantly, graduating from a university here at Strathclyde, we're an institution where freedom of thought is valued and encouraged. We place everything that we possibly can to encourage tolerance and inclusivity, and where people of diverse national, cultural and social backgrounds can come together to enjoy excellent education and a shared student experience. We benefit at Strathclyde for having staff and students from over 130 different countries. Ours is a socially progressive community, one that seeks to be an exemplar for modern society, because we're plural, multicultural, and we try to be enlightened. And it's our responsibility, graduates of Strathclyde, it's your responsibility now to continue to challenge unacceptable behaviour and practices, including by those in power, by using reason and by exemplifying the best features of a modern society. But of course, most importantly, we're here to acknowledge your hard work, the learning and skills that you've built up, and the successful completion of your degree programmes. This will now be your passport to the next stage of your lives, the next step into your careers, and whatever you choose to do to make a difference, in spite of the flux and uncertainty that we're currently facing. As you well know, we're still working through the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, not least because of the impacts on our health and care systems. The increasingly obvious effects that Brexit has had in our economy, that's becoming ever clearer. The impact on the UK economy and what does it mean to redefine the UK and indeed Scotland in that UK and British and world context. And the current cost of living challenges, which doesn't miss any of us, and the realisation for greater resilience and security of energy supplies, as well as the inflationary pressures that we're facing. Of course, that's been by and large driven by the illegal and unacceptable behaviour of Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. And we send our best wishes and thoughts to our colleagues and friends in Ukraine. But through all of these challenges, it's you, this class that's graduating today. This is the leadership group for tomorrow. You are the leaders that will try and tackle the challenges that by and large my generation have left before you. And we should do that with integrity, with energy and with purpose. And I've got no doubt you're going to do that and do that in style. However, if we face all these challenges, we have to remember that society has shown resilience, and we've shown what society can achieve when we work together. As we've collaborated, we've placed science and research and innovation at the forefront of finding the solutions to the challenges that we've faced. It was science and engineering and innovation that delivered the vaccines for COVID-19 in record time. And it will be science, engineering and education that will help us to address other challenges, not least the existential challenge for this century, and that's climate change. On Wednesday this week, we had the privilege of having Sir Patrick Vallance here on the stage with us as we conferred an honorary degree on him. He said some important things yesterday at the COVID-19 inquiry as well. So he has been a great advocate for engineering, being at the heart of the solutions that we need to either public health or climate change or infrastructure. And you'll remember, of course, it's only about 18 months ago that our wonderful city of Glasgow hosted COP26. Seems like an eternity ago, but it was only about 18 months ago, where we brought the world leaders together here in this city to try and agree measures to minimise global warming and climate change, and importantly, moving to action. And it's that action piece that counts, and engineers understand that action is important to make things happen, to take that systems perspective, but then get moving and get after it. We had the privilege of meeting many of those leaders that came to the city. Now, I met with John Kerry, the Biden's special presidential climate envoy, Sir Alok Sharma at the time, who was president of the COP activities. Michael Bloomberg, fellow electrical engineer, came here. I had the pleasure of meeting him, talking about the role for cities in driving the addressing of the challenge of climate change. But the real peak for that couple of weeks was the day that we welcomed Barack Obama onto campus. Not for a flying visit, he was here for half a day, coming to meet young people. And you see the spirit here that I keep on sharing with you. It's you, your leadership, your ambitions, your ideas and your knowledge that's going to make a difference. Now, he came under rather secure circumstances, so he turned up unannounced. Of course, we were prepared to receive him. I had the pleasure of welcoming him. He spent some time with youngsters. So there was about 6 befuddled individuals that saw him coming out of a car in Richmond Street to come into the Learning and Teaching building. But through the powers of social media, where you can't really keep a secret, a few hours later, there was about 500 or 600 folk waiting to say goodbye to him again. But as he left, having had a great meeting with these great young leaders of tomorrow, he turned on the steps and looked at those that were gathered there, and he said 2 words, and it was, get active. And I'll say that to you today, Strathclyde graduates, get active. Get active in your careers, get active in the things that you do from a social impact perspective in the communities that you engage with, and make a difference. Go ahead, apply yourselves, and take what you've learned here at Strathclyde as you've matured and you become degree-bearing engineers. Because I've followed a similar journey. I was brought up here as a son of Glasgow. I was born in a sunny hamlet across the other side of the Clyde called Govan. My father and my 2 brothers worked in Fairfield shipyards, and I had the benefit of their ambition for me, and a very credible mother that was encouraging me as well, to use a euphemism, to stick in at school and go to university. And thank goodness I did it here at Strathclyde. Govan's motto is nihil sine labore, or nothing without hard work. And bear that in mind. You're all clever, you're all accomplished, you've all got ambitions, but apply yourselves. Edison said that genius was 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. Don't know about those ratios, but what I will tell you is stick in, do work hard, and do apply yourself. Because now today you become Strathclyde alumni. You're all Strathclyders, the latest torchbearers, following in the footsteps of the generations that have gone before you. And with all that you've come through, I have no doubt you recognise the fantastic support you've had from the people in the room with you today. Mums, dads, aunts, grands, grandpas, friends, supporters, and I am sure you would like to join me, along with the staff, to say a big thank you to all of the people here that have made today possible. Thank you very much indeed. And for our excellent academic staff too, be no doubt that this is an important day, because your success is ultimately their reward. We've worked hard to give you an excellent education and a first-class university experience, and without them, we wouldn't have come to this important day. So, graduates and those in the hall, let's say thanks to our academic staff. And very briefly, a history of your place. Strathclyde is 227 years old this year. We were founded in 1796. Sometimes people forget that about our history. We were founded as Anderson's Institution in the Enlightenment period, and we try to lead this place like a 200-year-old startup organisation with the same excitement, entrepreneurship and innovation that's required since the time of our establishment. And we've always remained faithful to our founding principles. And we were established, using the language of the day, for the benefit of all mankind. And we were the only higher education institution to be established here in Scotland during the Enlightenment. A real distinction for Strathclyde, where universities connected to society, recognised its purpose and had their doors wide open for those to participate in education and further studies that had the desire to do so. And we've never had that same desire at such a level as we have now here in the 21st century. Our founder, Professor John Anderson, who was a physicist, or he would have been called a natural philosopher at the time, although he was a polymath. He had a good engineering streak in him too. He had strong links with Benjamin Franklin, the American inventor and academic who was involved in establishing the University of Pennsylvania in 1751, and its motto was useful knowledge. And that inspired Anderson and what was going on in Europe and here in Scotland with Adam Smith and all of those Enlightenment figures. He wanted to have established, at the time of his death, a place of useful learning, as he called it. And that motto, never forget it, it defines what your university is all about. Formerly, we would describe ourselves as a leading international technological university that's socially progressive, but woven through all of that is us being committed to useful learning. So, for example, as you came to the Barony Hall today, the buildings that you'll have passed, Strathclyde academics and students are developing drugs to diagnose and fight disease. For example, we have several drugs on clinical trials in the areas of cancer treatment, kidney disease, infection management, and inflammatory diseases. Strathclyders, and many of them in the stage with me today, are producing low-carbon energy technologies and policy solutions to tackle climate change and to establish a low-carbon economy. We're revolutionising global manufacturing, very important for the department you're graduating from today, to try and help that fourth industrial revolution, or so-called Industry 4.0, with robotics, automation, advanced data analytics, advanced materials and the likes. Only on Wednesday this week, we were joined by the First Minister out at the National Manufacturing Institute for Scotland to open what is undoubtedly going to be the platform for Scotland capturing again the power of manufacturing, something that we gave up too easily over the past 50 years, but now with the drive of Strathclyde and the support of our other academic partners, industry and Scottish and UK government were there. Professor Brad Wynne, who is the head of department in mechanical and aerospace, is the director of one very important component of that National Manufacturing Campus called the Advanced Forming Research Centre, where we take great ideas, great research, plug in our great people and engage with business and industry to create jobs, to create Scottish opportunity. And over the next few years, that facility will be growing to inject over £1 billion of gross value add into the Scottish economy and create about 4,000 jobs here in the west of Scotland. Our Technology and Innovation Centre, which is just a few blocks down in George Street, is at the heart of what we call the Glasgow City Innovation District, the first of its type established in Scotland, originally working in energy, photonics and pharmaceuticals, but now expanding to look at medtech, fintech, quantum technology, industrial informatics, 6G communications and space technology, another area where your department has a world-leading reputation. And who knew that in Glasgow here, outside California, we have the largest small satellite manufacturing capability in the world, and about 160 companies clustered around this city, and many of them taking our graduates, certainly them keying into our research. And people are investing in this. Just 18 months ago, one of our double graduates, an alum called Dr. Charles Wang, donated £50 million to Strathclyde to drive our research and innovation agenda and supporting our students to be more entrepreneurial and take that risk, that boldness of taking engineering and technology and turning it into opportunity. You won't know Charles, but you will know him through his products that you will have been using. Charles is a serial entrepreneur, but he has one company called Innova Medical, which produced the majority of the lateral flow tests that you were using, that we all got so used to when we became amateur bioscientists at home. We were just making sure we were all staying well. And Charles is committed to building a £1 billion foundation, and his first donation through that foundation was here at his alma mater. So we stay close to him, and we take his guidance and input as well as his financial support to drive things forward. So this, for me, represents useful learning at its very best. We provide business and industry with the tools that they need to be more innovative, more productive, to promote economic growth. And that's through creating jobs that provides us all with a better quality of life that is both sustainable and healthy. But most importantly, with all these great research ideas and these great facilities, our biggest contribution to society, our most lasting legacy, is all of you, our graduates. It's you over the next years and decades who will be making a difference to the world. And whatever you choose to do, and take the wind in your sails, as it were, out of this graduation ceremony today, and go out there and feel no constraints. Do things that you choose to do. Be excited about things that you're doing, and don't be afraid to make change and to have your voice heard in whatever company, organisation or region that you may choose to do it. And these are some of the reasons, some of the environmental ethos points that I'm talking about that have had us win, and we are still the only UK university to have won the Times Higher UK University of the Year twice, the Sunday Times and Times Scottish University of the Year, Entrepreneurial University of the Year, the Higher Education Workplace of the Year, which I was pleased about, because that wasn't just about what we do and why we do it, but how we do it, through our values, through our commitment to work with our staff and our students and our partners. And we've won 3 Queen's Anniversary Prizes, part of the National Honours System, for our work in power engineering, energy innovation and advanced manufacturing, where your department has been central to laying out our key national and international leadership. So we try hard to have this disproportionate impact on Scotland and the UK and beyond, and we have to drive that by concentrating on delivery and contribution. Universities must be seen as an investment in society, not a cost, and I know that's easier said than done, given the challenges we have economically, but the Scottish Government invests about £1.2 billion a year in Scottish universities, which is welcome. But we turn that into £10 billion or more of gross value added into the Scottish economy. So that's a great return on the investment. And this department, and the Faculty of Engineering in particular, gives me great cause for optimism that will continue to go from strength to strength. And just a very few examples of this, because we could be here for a long time if I were to tell you all that Stephen MacArthur has been leading within the engineering faculty. So, for example, Strathclyde's architects and engineering students have just completed rebuilding a school, for example, in Nepal, which was destroyed during the earthquakes and flooding 6 or so years ago. And that school's now been doubled in size. It's fantastically well designed, and it's been designed such that there are now many young girls that are there that weren't going there before, because they've got separate changing facilities and other resources. So we've turned a small school that was predominantly for boys into a 200-strong school with as many girls as there are boys. That is real social impact. That's real useful learning. Strathclyde's a partner in the Green Marine Project, a project we're working with our European partners to develop carbon capture solutions for ships to reduce their emissions and fuel consumption. The maritime world generates a high proportion of our emissions that we have to deal with. And again, this faculty, this university is at the front end of greening the maritime industry. One of our engineering alumni, Grant Hardy, was a member of the Scotland curling team, which won gold at the World's Men's Championship in Canada. And another one of our students was part of the team that won gold in Lake Placid earlier this year in the World University Games. Great sports capability. Engineering students, Sheikh Malik and Maisie Kyo, have designed and built a hot air balloon bearing Strathclyde's logo. I've not dared climb into the basket yet, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity in due course. This being the first university-branded balloon in Scotland, predominantly to promote the university, of course, and the Students' Union, but to get the message about STEM out to school leavers. We have another company engaged with the engineering faculty called Microplate DX. You know, mechanical engineering and aerospace engineering knows no bounds, having raised seed funding of almost £1 million to looking at state-of-the-art, game-changing diagnostic tests, looking to detect antimicrobial resistance. And they've won multiple awards, from the Scottish Edge Awards all the way through to the best startup medtech company. And we also have, in your department, has a world-leading space capability, an experiment that finds new ways of creating materials that could be used to produce medicines and metal alloys, and those are now on board the International Space Station, which were taken out there in November, with astronauts in the ISS using this equipment to carry out experiments that couldn't be replicated here on Earth. And so many more things that I could tell you about, but these are just snapshots of the quality of what's going on in this place, in your department and in the faculty. And this is the exciting context within which you should see your awards. Of course, this is all about you today and what you've achieved, but never forget you're a Strathclyder now. We place students at the heart of everything that we do, and we value excellence in education and research, creating strong connections with society, as well as with the business world. And of course, we are very strongly connected internationally. The very best universities collaborate, contribute, and compete in the world stage. And as an example, in America, our core international strategic partners include Stanford. We've been working with them for over 30 years in photonics and laser technology, now moving to quantum. MIT, a number of us here on the stage have been working with MIT for 30 years or so in energy technologies and power systems. With the University of Southern California, Waterloo University in Canada, the very best technological university there. In China, we'll work with the #1 and the #2 university very closely, University of Peking and Tsinghua, as well as the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. That's great for our students and great for the exchange of ideas. And in spite of Brexit, policies come and go, political storms blow over eventually, but all of this is driven by relationships, and we have very deep and long-lasting and current active relationships with our partners across Europe, which again is good for the students because the world's biggest challenges in global health, in climate change, in transport, and social justice can only be solved by international collaboration. But of course, all of you have benefited from being in an international institution, helping you to emerge with the skills that you need to pursue your careers, and also for Scotland and the other countries that you belong to play a full part in the world. And you've been exposed, very importantly, to the richness and the value of different cultures and different traditions. So as you leave here today, never forget, please, that you're leaving with an obligation as a global citizen, that connectivity, that understanding, and that mutual respect. And I've mentioned being socially progressive a couple of times. One key example for me is that amongst the research-intensive universities in Scotland, we take the highest number of young people from the most challenged communities. The communities where I was brought up, where they have the intellectual capability, the ambition, but maybe not the means. And we take around 1,300 youngsters from those communities every year. And yet, as according to the Complete University Guide only 2 weeks ago, we have the second highest entrance requirements in the UK. And we can qualify that by having contextual admissions, making a nonsense of statements that where if you have a big widening access policy, you must be undermining quality. Not a bit of it. Because of the commitment of my academic staff and the fact that we make this a strategic priority, we mean we get these youngsters identified in, keep them in, educate them, and then launch them into their careers. And that stretches across the age groups. We used to lead a programme called the Children's University, where I was Chancellor. That's now migrated to become Young Strathclyder. And although this has been our first graduation week, 3 weeks ago we had our first graduation ceremony in here with 300 10 to 12-year-olds from 10 Glasgow primary schools. They were arrayed before me, as you are, with their gowns and their mortarboards. It was I tell you what, if I get a bottled energy in the room, we'd have a new form of renewable energy. It was fantastic. 200 other people, their mums and dads. The vast majority of them had never been across the threshold of a university. But as I was speaking to these youngsters, I was actually speaking to their mums and dads about have a high level of ambition. Because what I'd like to see in 10 years' time is these youngsters sitting where you're sitting today, getting their degrees, living that vision of what education can make a difference for them, for their families, and for their communities. So let me move to conclude. In 2023, Strathclyde, I think, could be comfortably identified and described as having a distinctiveness, having ambition, focus, and momentum. And we have to continue working with the same agility and commitment so necessary to absorb the thumps and bumps and political and economic uncertainties that we all face. But remember, we're 227 years old as an institution, so we'll be successful. And sometimes it's harder than others, but we'll always get through there mainly through the work of our academics and our students. It's a great privilege for me to lead this institution. I've a great executive team, fantastic set of academics, support staff, administrators, and I truly believe if John Anderson could see what's going on in this room today, he would recognise the realisation of his vision to have created a place of useful learning. So, to all of you in the Barony Hall today, I'm very confident that 2023, in spite of all the challenges that you've faced, and I greatly respect the issues that you faced through COVID-19, but you can truly become a vintage year. You've shown resilience, dedication and maturity, and we're truly proud of what you've come through so successfully. And you're about to leave a community globally of 200,000 Strathclyders in the world, and I have no doubt wherever you go, either professionally or personally, you will bump into Strathclyders. We're everywhere making a difference wherever we go. So whatever you do with your degree and wherever you're going to pursue your careers, remember that truly useful learning means that you apply your knowledge for the benefit of others, make a positive impact for yourselves and the communities that you belong to. Never forget where you came from. Respect diversity and value freedom of thought and expression, and reach conclusions and resolve disputes through reason and tolerance. That represents the core values of your university. So, let me conclude by saying on behalf of Strathclyde, I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations to each and every one of you. You should be proud of what you've achieved, as your families are too. I wish you every success in your future careers. Do stay in touch with us. We're interested to see how you're getting on. And to all of you, please enjoy the rest of this very special day. Thank you. As always, I'm looking down the aisle here, and we're using digital technology where Fiona's just giving me the thumbs up, which means that it's not raining, which means that we can process. So what we'll do is I close the ceremony in a moment. I hope you've enjoyed the ceremony as much as we have as an institution. Many congratulations again to our new graduates. What a fantastic band of new Strathclyders. We will, as we leave the stage, we're going to process down the aisle. If you'd allow the stage party to do that. Graduates, please join us, and then mums, dads, supporters, come behind us. We cordially invite you to join us at the Learning and Teaching Building, where there will be refreshments and nibbles to enjoy, and perhaps a chat or two with the academic staff that's here. So with that, I'm going to ask you to be upstanding as I formally close the event. Thank you very much indeed.